Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was created in the relationship subreddit by a user named Arthro23. The post is titled, I, 25F, have been with my fiance, 25M, for 5 years. I cheated and I'm not sure how to handle his response. I understand that what I did was wrong. I don't deny that or try to excuse it in any way. I feel horrible about it and I will do anything that I can to make this right. So while I understand calling me names is fair game, I am really looking for advice on what to do from here. Very early on in our relationship, 6 weeks to be exact, I went on a trip to visit my sister at her school. The second night there, we attended a huge party and I was dancing and drinking. One guy in particular kept hitting on me and as the night wore on, I started flirting back. I make no excuses. I was drinking but was not drunk. He did not or take advantage of me. I just made a horrible judgment call and I ended up going with him back to his room. I knew the moment it started it was wrong and I ended up crying while I was lying there. I got up and left as soon as he was done. To this day, I don't even know his last name. My sister was so wasted she went home with a friend and never knew I didn't spend the night at her place as I was there before she got home. I went back home and was just guilt-ridden. Although I knew it would cost me my new boyfriend at the time, I was going to tell him and beg him to forgive me. When I saw him the next day, he was already very depressed. He did not get the job offer he thought he was going to get, and he was very down. I decided that I didn't want to add to his depression, so I spent the entire day trying to cheer him up and be a comfort for him. Then, the next time I saw him, he was so happy with me because he said that I was able to make him forget about how crappy his life was at that moment. Once again, I didn't tell him. Yes, I know it was wrong both times, but I was young, immature, and scared. After those 2 times, we were getting along so well that I just put it in my head that nobody other than myself and the other guy even knew it happened. So why ruin a great thing when I knew I would never do it again and I would never see or hear from this other guy? Fast forward to 2 months ago. We have been together for years now, and in fact, we have been together longer than any of our friends have been with their partners. We love each other and we live together. He asked me to marry him. I was overjoyed and of course said yes. We told our family and our friends and everyone was happy for us. But 2 days after he asked me, I become overwhelmed by guilt. I called into work because I couldn't function and spent the entire morning sitting on the couch crying. I was a liar and a cheat, and I had tricked my boyfriend into proposing when, in fact, if he knew about it from the start, he would have probably broken up with me. I decided I could not live the rest of my life like that and determined that when he came home, I had to tell him no matter what his mood was. The other part of this that is important is that I am his first and only partner. He knew that I had been with one other guy before we got together, but that never bothered him, or so I thought. He comes home and immediately sees that I'm a mess and asks what's wrong. I tell him and he is understandably very upset and very emotional. I tell him that I will do anything to prove to him that I have never done anything like that since nor will I ever do anything like that in the future. I offer to let him go through my tablet, phone, Facebook, or anything, and he says that it won't be necessary because he doesn't want us to live like that. He said that he wanted some time to himself to think and said he would sleep on the couch. I told him that I would give him all the time he wanted or needed, but that I would be the one sleeping on the couch, not him. The next morning, he is quiet but does not show any bitterness towards me. I just asked if he was okay as I didn't want to pry into his thoughts. He told me that of course he was hurt and upset. He said the hardest thing for him was the time frame because he doesn't know if being upset is justifiable or silly at this length of time. I told him he was certainly justified to be upset and we both went to work. A week went by and he seemed to get a little better every day to the point that we both went out to have a somewhat celebration dinner for our engagement with one of his friends. Everything was fine until Wednesday when he told me he would be back very late from work. This doesn't bother me at all because this can be a somewhat normal occurrence. When they start on one project, they can't stop until it is completed, and there have been times it's taken 16 hours to do. So I spent the evening catching up on some work I was behind on, watched a movie I knew he wouldn't want to watch, and then went to bed. I woke up the next morning and he still wasn't there. I texted him and asked him where he was. He just replied with, "I'm on my way home." We passed each other on the street as I had to get to work. I called him and he just said that he was longer than expected and was going home for some sleep. Okay, this isn't normal, but he did give me a heads up, and he wasn't acting weird or suspicious, so I just went about my day. I came home and he was sitting in the living room waiting for me. Long story short, he told me that he spent last night with Tracy, a married woman from his work. I just collapsed in the chair. He then went on to tell me that this was a one-time thing and that she is in an open marriage and he has no feelings for her, and she has none for him. But he said that he felt completely paralyzed with anger and envy about me not only having slept with this other guy, but over my previous relationship as well. He said he knew he was wrong, but he just felt like he had to be with someone else just once so he wouldn't feel so insecure about me being with other guys, and he had only been with me. I started crying, of course, and then got pissed and started yelling at him. Then he stopped me and asked why I was yelling at him. I cheated first, and when he found out about it, he never yelled at me, which is true. He didn't. He says he regrets the action, really regrets feeling like he cheapened himself in the process, but that while he is sorry it has hurt me, he says that even though it was wrong and he knows it was wrong, he's sorry but felt like it was something he had to do. Now, he wants us to move on like nothing happened. I have no idea what to do from here. I would be the world's biggest hypocrite if I left him, but I'm so hurt that I just don't know how we go forward from here. Sorry for the wall of text. Any advice would be appreciated. TLDR, cheated on my boyfriend 6 weeks into our relationship 4 years ago, never told him. Then we got engaged, felt guilty, and told him. He responds by getting even by sleeping with a co-worker. User Mashudo said, I suggest at the very least that you two hold off on any wedding planning that you may be doing. Other than that, you two are going to need some serious counseling to get past this. But to be honest, I think your relationship might be doomed. You made a bad mistake by cheating, then another really bad mistake by hiding it from him, but he went and did the same thing. For what? To know whether the grass truly was greener? For revenge? He says it's something he had to do, as if him doing it would somehow make what you did okay. In reality, it hurt you very badly, and I can guarantee it won't make him feel any better, nor will it allow him to simply just get over your cheating. I would be incredibly worried if I were you. His reaction to finding out something hurtful was to turn around and do the same thing. That's not a healthy way to deal with problems, and as you can see, it has turned what was already a really bad situation into a much worse situation. If there was any hope of you two possibly getting past your cheating, he may have just thrown that out the window. A deleted user said, you know your cheating was wrong and you should not have waited so long to tell him, but revenge is no reason to cheat either. He was wrong to do so. I think you should move on and find someone new. Your trust has been shattered, both of you, and likely will never recover. User Mellow Man said, your action was dumb and ill thought out, whereas his was considered and malicious. A marriage shouldn't be about two separate people trying to keep even with each other. It's about being a unit and being unselfish to move through things together. Marrying someone to avoid being a hypocrite would be ridiculous, but I'm sure you know that anyway. A deleted user said, both of you are retarded idiots. Another deleted user said, you cheated 6 weeks into the relationship, and while it was still 100% wrong, you were probably not in love yet, and it was not just because you wanted to hurt your boyfriend. He cheated 4 years into the relationship after all that time together, and it was 100% because he wanted to get back at you. There's a huge difference between a stupid mistake 6 weeks into a relationship and a deliberate, calculated move to hurt someone you love after 4 years together. Also, the fact he just happened to sleep with a coworker barely any time after being told about your cheating just suggests that he was already into her and took the first opportunity he could to cheat. This is not good news for your relationship. Another deleted user said, your relationship is over. Don't get married to this guy. You cheated. Now he revenge cheated. There's no coming back from this. He obviously resented you so much he felt the need to cheat. Now you're going to resent him. This is why you should have either gone to the grave with your secret or told him sooner. Now, you two are engaged. Your friends and family are all celebrating the fact you are, and your engagement is over. Your relationship is dead. And it could have been stopped if back when you originally cheated, you had said something. User Galganathor said, well, your relationship of 5 years was based on a lie. When you told him your truth, that relationship was over. From the charred remains, you and your fiancé started working together on another relationship. And then he cheated on you and told you that the relationship is now broken. So what you have now is two people who cheated on the other, eventually told the truth, broken trust between each of you, and no relationship. You are going to have to decide if you want to start over from scratch with him or with another guy. Likewise, he is going to have to decide if he wants to start over with you or move on to another girl. I guess you are going to have to decide if you want to be with someone who retaliates when you make a mistake and fess up to it. I am not excusing his actions at all, but if my partner told me that she cheated on me 5 years ago, I would be out the door. Not long after, OP provided us with an update. This has been a very rough week. In fact, this has pretty much ruined what is normally my favorite time of the year. Several people have messaged me asking me to update, but I have just been kind of in a haze and honestly didn't know what to type. I'll start off with this. We are still together. We have agreed to postpone telling people when our wedding will be, but for now, we are still together and still engaged to be married. He has agreed to go with me to couples counseling. We can't get in till the end of next month, but we have it set up to go and his insurance will cover his portion of the bill. I'm still checking on mine, but we can pay out of pocket if necessary. We have had several long conversations that have involved lots of crying, mostly me, and one full-fledged mental breakdown by him. I'm not going to lie, after posting this the last time, some people were saying they thought she was fictional and he was only saying he did this, so during one of our conversations, I finally got the courage to just ask him if he was just saying this to make me feel bad. Sadly, he continued to claim that this happened and how bad he felt about it. I'll also just go ahead and admit this now as well. I snooped. I went to his workplace and started looking for her. I've been there many times before, so security didn't even pay me a second thought. I found her and really truly wish I had not. She is everything I am not. She is tall, big blonde hair, and extremely pretty. As though my self-esteem wasn't already in the toilet, this pretty much put a fork in me. I never spoke to her and I've never told him I've seen her, but the thought of her and him working together every day was making me lose my mind. I know how much he likes sex, and I can only imagine if she is really available to him, he will go back for seconds. But this leads me to another part of my update. I honestly believe he is very emotionally hurt by what he has done. He loves sex, but he is also very uptight about it as well, if that makes any sense. He has told me on more than one occasion how he feels like he has betrayed not just me but himself by doing this. He said that the entire time was very weird to him initially, but very upsetting to him ultimately, because he said just going through the act without any emotional ties to the act was unsettling for him and that he didn't really enjoy it. I'm calling BS on this. I've seen her, he doesn't know that, and I can tell you he would enjoy that. I've unloaded on him a few times, probably unfairly on a couple of times, but I got so mad one night I smacked him. I immediately begged him to forgive me because I knew immediately that it was wrong. He still has never yelled at me or even raised his voice, but his full meltdown did reveal that he truly feels betrayed. Sadly, he remembers the weekend that my cheating occurred in great detail because he had asked me to attend a family function with him and I had already planned to go to my sister's, so I couldn't. He put two and two together and determined that I was having sex when he was miserable and had asked me to be with him. Basically, we have both hurt each other badly, but we both still want to be together, so we are going to try and make this work. I also asked him again why he did what he did. Well, actually, I've asked him that several times, and he was firm that he did it to ease his own pain. He said that it wasn't just done to spite me or to get even, but he said he wouldn't deny that maybe somewhere along the way he did consider it. The ultimate update to that is this. He has told me he is going to leave his job. He said he does not feel right walking into work and seeing her and both of them acting like nothing ever happened. I did not ask him to do this, and once again, he doesn't even know that I have seen her. Honestly, I am relieved about that part. Do I think he did it to spite me? Honestly, yes, I think there is a part of that in there, but in talking with him, and we've talked for hours on the subject, I just really get the feeling that he thought it would make him feel better, but it didn't. He now feels like he has to deal with the pain of being a cheater on top of trying to deal with the idea of being cheated on. I'm far more emotional than he is, but I can tell you from knowing him for so long that he is a mess emotionally. He is just trying to cope differently than I am. I wish I had a more definitive update for you guys or something more juicy, but this is where we are. We both hurt, we both want to keep trying, and we both are trying our best to heal ourselves while trying to heal each other. I know it was probably a snotty thing to do, but I demanded that he get tested for infections, and he did. Came back clean. I know that was humiliating for him, but I just felt like I needed that for my peace of mind. Also, we had sex for the first time since all of this last night. It It was very intense. Not the usual loving emotions from either of us at first, but he stopped and we eventually ended back into a more romantic state soon after. One day at a time, I guess. User I am against it said, "This is such an unhealthy relationship." User Orange Logo said, "Personally, I don't see this relationship working out at all. I have cheated in the past and was cheated on in another relationship this year, and neither of those situations worked out. After seeing the pain that I caused someone else, I knew that I could never do that to someone again. And I think you are both probably going to realize the pain that you feel and that you both caused each other will only help you to make somebody else happy." User Weirdox Panda said, "I will sound harsh here, but honestly, OP, you both aren't ready for marriage. Despite how you say you felt so guilty for your actions, you had chances to tell him. I understand he went through depression, but you had years to tell him. You didn't tell him for 4 years. You assumed it would be fine with him not knowing and just went along with it. Also, you seem selfish in a way. You didn't tell him the truth, and you seemed like you expected him to react fine. How else would he feel?" His fiancée, who he has been with for 5 years, revealed she cheated and kept it a secret for years. You not only cheated, slapped, and guilted him, but you seem to have completely forgotten this would not have happened had you never cheated. This update was about how bad you felt, how you snooped, and how you saw her and compared yourself. I understand you love him, and in a way, it's shocking he'd do that. Now that you've been with each other for so long, you did the same. It sucks to be cheated on, but you did the same. And he at least told you he cheated instead of waiting 4 years. You're clearly not mature enough for a marriage. You seem to have completely forgotten all the bad things you've done and now focus completely on what he has done. You've both done bad in this relationship and it is unhealthy and manipulative. User Cayenne Pepper said, "You're both handling this situation terribly. People are bashing you for cheating and hitting him, which I completely agree with, but he also cheated. He cheated on you at a much deeper and more emotional part of your relationship, which I feel is worse than your cheating. It never gave you reason to hit him, but this situation is very complicated and emotional. He does need to switch jobs if you're going to stay together so that you don't have all this pent-up jealousy whenever he leaves. That will never be healthy. It's good that therapy is coming into the picture, but personally, I would never be able to work past this. Both of you have cheated on different levels, violence has come into the picture, and he still sees the woman he slept with. This relationship should be over." About 2 weeks later, OP gave us her final update. "Honestly, things have been much better since my last update. We have had several long, honest conversations with each other, and we are both very committed to staying together. I can honestly say that we love each other. I truly believe he loves me, and I know for a fact I still love him." After my last update, I had to take a long, hard look at myself because so many people were rightfully chastising me about hitting him. I have to agree with several of the commenters that if the roles had been reversed, I probably would have thought it was abuse. Well, it was no different for me. I was abusive, and it's very hard to come to terms with that. I wrote him a 4-page letter telling him how sorry I was. I offered to go to the police and turn myself in, but he said that was stupid. He said that he didn't even think about it because, in his words, I barely tapped him. That does not make it right. I was wrong and I make no excuses. It is just as wrong for a woman to hit a man as it is for a man to hit a woman. So I apologized to him, and now I apologize to all of you who read it and were offended. You were right to be offended, and I am sorry for my actions. I let my emotions take me to a place that I should never have allowed them to. It looks like my insurance may not come through for our therapy, but I am going to pay my part out of pocket. He is going to stay at his job, but take a transfer to another office across town. This was a good compromise because he can still maintain his benefits and seniority at his job, but he will no longer work in the same building as her. The only hiccup that has occurred was when we were talking about my indiscretion from years ago. He wanted to know who it was, and once I finally convinced him that I had no idea who he was or how to get a hold of him, he got upset about me hooking up with someone I didn't know. But that quickly passed, and he said that it was dumb to be upset about it. He is doing better about the whole thing. I am trying really hard myself. I don't know which is worse. In his mind, having to make up what the other guy looked like, or in my case, actually knowing what she looks like. However, we haven't even spoken about it the past 2 nights, so I don't know if this is good or bad, to be honest with you. Anyway, sorry that there isn't anything really juicy to report to you, but ultimately, I think we will be okay with each other, and we both are trying really hard to make this work. TLDR, still talking and committed to each other, things look better and hopefully this is going to pass with time. A deleted user said his interest in knowing more about the other man is equal to you snooping at his place of work on the blonde woman. Don't be hypocritical about this issue. Tell him all of the details about the other guy if he asks. He wants to know how he compares, and this could eat him up inside for the rest of his life if he does not get details. Was the other guy better in bed, bigger down there, and had more stamina? These are the thoughts going through your BF's mind. Maybe not every day, but often enough to cause the little bouts of depression and sadness you witness coming over him. If you don't have answers to his questions when they come up, he will have a difficult time putting this behind him. Imagine the questions which go through your head about him sleeping with the blonde. Bigger chest, tighter vagina, deeper BJs, just plain better than you. I imagine all of these went through your mind. Did you ask him about this? If so, did he answer? I know the above sounds crude, but we all get very illogical and emotional when it comes to and infidelity. Many people say this relationship is doomed. I don't necessarily think so, but both of you have a lot of work to do. Look for Joseph's letter. Google it if you have to. Take all of this material to heart. Couples counseling should be maintained for as long as possible prior to even thinking about marriage. Start to rearrange your budget and expenditures if your current health insurance does not pay for it. Economize in other areas of your life in order to pay for something far more important, your emotional health. Do not make plans for a wedding just yet. Do not even announce the engagement. If there is a ring, do not wear it yet. This can be saved, but both of you have to work really hard and be truly remorseful for what you both did. Your BF needs to realize how vindictive, punishing, and self-destructive his cheating was. You need to realize how selfish, irresponsible, and immature yours was. Do not even blame alcohol for this. Good luck to both of you no matter what happens. User Fredit said, despite being a pessimist, I had some hope for you two from the beginning. I hope it works out. Make sure you get rid of any lingering resentment or issues during therapy before getting married. Best wishes and Happy New Year. This next post was made in the True Off My Chest subreddit by a user named OrneryPeanut4415. The post is titled, My sister's passing was the best thing that happened to her toddler. This is going to sound horrible, but hear me out. My sister was an addict and a bad person. She had a mental illness that she didn't want help with and instead thought that substances, yoga, and crystals would cure her. I loved her dearly as my sister, and she had her moments of being a nice and caring person, but for the most part, she was a mess. She had a son through a one-night stand with some other drug addict. She did not show much interest in raising him and basically let him do whatever he wanted. She did at least feed him and whatnot, but that kid was completely out of control. One Christmas morning, she committed suicide. She didn't leave any note or explanation, just did it. Her 4-year-old son was now basically an orphan since his loser dad was and still is in prison. This was 10 years ago. My older brother adopted the boy and raised him as his own. He is now an outstanding student, incredibly good at basketball, and overall has a bright future, thanks to my brother who put in tremendous effort and love into raising him. Had my sister stayed, I imagine this kid would be on a much darker path, but there is no way of knowing. I do still miss her. User Midlife Crisis 46 said, I don't think this is horrible. Sometimes the truth is just hard. You can love her sister, she can be kind, but she can also not be a good mother. All these things can be true. I'm sorry for your loss. Under this comment, user Powerless Hero said, can confirm. My father doesn't love his brothers. They only bug him when they need money because my grandfather was helping to support all 3 of his brothers. When my grandfather died, that was really the only time they talked to my father, and it was really just to get their inheritance as fast as possible. Now, 2 years later, they really only talk to my dad when they want money, or if there is any money left over from my grandfather's estate. I recently joked with my sister that I don't want us to turn out like them, so we always talk once a month just to see how each other is and whatnot. User Mushrooming247 said, this reminds me of a situation in my extended family. Both parents were addicts and the father wasn't around, and the mother would leave their 2 small children unattended in her home for a day or 2 at a time until her mom took them. When they were repeatedly found alone and one of the children mentioned being so hungry, they tried eating her own poop from their diaper. A year or 2 later, the mother died, and at some point, the father also died, leaving their small children as orphans raised by their grandmother, both idolizing their loving, caring late parents who were taken too early by cancer. Sometimes it's better for the children to be raised by someone else and never know their own parents. User Borderline Ginger said, "My first husband was an addict. He passed over 5 years ago. He couldn't stay clean, couldn't keep a job. I don't think he paid more than one single month of child support ever. Today I'm remarried. My children have stability, safety, freedom, and I get regular checks from Social Security. My children have a way better life because he's gone. Is that harsh? Absolutely. But it's also true, and that's okay. We aren't glad he's dead, but we recognize we would still be held prisoner with him because of his addiction if he were still alive. My oldest misses him, and we honor that. But we also honor the reality of the situation, and that's okay." User Ars of Valhalla said, "The same thing happened to my sister. I didn't have a great relationship with her because she was just a bad person to be around. Very rude. She was really into after high school, even when she was pregnant. The best thing that happened to her pregnancy was getting caught with and having to spend some time in jail. The baby was born addicted to heroin, so she has had a rough life. My sister got clean for a bit, met someone else, got pregnant again, but he turned out to be a domestic abuser. She took drugs to dissociate from it, and it eventually killed her. My dad tried going after the guy, but couldn't prove the violence done to her body was from him. The essentially is what killed her, so it was ruled an OD. My parents adopted her first child. We never saw the other again. But my parents are also shitty parents. They were better with my niece than with me and my siblings, but still not better. I have gone no contact with them, so I am not sure how my niece is doing now, but I have to imagine it's slightly better than having a drug-addicted mother who surrounded herself with bad men.